Hi, welcome back to my channel, Brianna Entrepreneur. It's been over a year since I've made regular content, and my original content was about entrepreneurship and self-improvement. Then I started to talk about, share some ideas and stuff like that, and then I just didn't have anything to say. I kind of know why I didn't have anything to say, and that's part of this video. The other part of what I was doing last year was having a baby. Hey, what's up? What's up? And I did a lot of growth and personal development and healing. That brings us to this video. This all happened in July. I basically understood that my ambition, what this whole channel was created to document, has been a coping mechanism. So this is going to be that story. Last summer, I was kind of in a place where I didn't really want to be trying to pursue a business. I, if you recall, had a business in 2020. I started a business in 2020. I left it in 2021. And I really, I had some ideas, but I just wanted to take a different approach and not try to start anything. But I did think I would make a podcast just for fun and make sure I had a bunch of episodes recorded before I launched it, because that was still something creative to do. And so I was making this podcast about my spiritual journey, and I think I made one episode, and I went to do the second one and my computer just wouldn't record. That was unusual because I've recorded tons of things. I had a podcast in 2019 and I never had issues with GarageBand, the application on my computer, not recording. So after wasting a day on it, I was just like, what is it? Am I not supposed to do this? I'm asking whoever's up there, my spirit team, am I not supposed to do this? And I did some other things that kind of confirmed, no, you're not supposed to do this. I felt frustrated because I embarked on this journey in 2018. I quit my job so that I could pursue the life that I wanted. And at that time, I thought it took the courage to quit your job. I thought it took figuring out who you are and what is your purpose, what is the right opportunity for you, and learning how to work hard, developing all these skills. That's what I thought it took. Yet time and time again, I found myself in this place where I'm having to reconcile that this is not for me. This isn't working out. I was frustrated. I put so much energy into so many things and got nowhere. And I've also spent a lot of money because I honestly believed that if I just have faith and work hard, I would be a millionaire, if not a millionaire, make my target income, which at the time was $75,000. That was when I felt like if I could generate that, I'd really feel like I was on my way. I really thought that that would happen shortly after I got started, so I made all these investments thinking that I would definitely have the money to pay it off before the 12 months of interest-free, no interest was up on my credit card, and it just didn't happen like that. So when I couldn't get the computer to record and I felt like I wasn't meant to make the podcast, I was just frustrated, and I was like, you know what? I quit. I give up. I'm not trying to do anything. Not only am I not trying to start a business, not only am I not trying to start a podcast or any other project, I'm also not trying to be more spiritual. I'm not trying to have this sort of relationship with my husband. I'm not trying to be this sort of parent. I'm just done trying. The next week I went to therapy and I told my therapist that I give up on entrepreneurship. And for some reason she connected that with this other concept we had talked about called the protective self. And she sent me an excerpt or part of a chapter from this book called Whole Again, which talks about the protective self and the behaviors we do that feed the protective self and keep it alive. So the theory is that the protective self, or the false self, was developed at a time when we needed something to cope with our situation that we didn't have the skills or resources to manage at that time. And it has a list of things that are symptoms or behaviors of the protective self, and it says that the way to minimize the protective self is basically to stop doing these behaviors that keep it alive. So I look at this list and I kind of realize why it's relevant to this time, because I finally was at a place where I was like, I'm not going to keep trying to do stuff. And then I realized that my trying to do stuff is a protective self behavior. So what's interesting about that is I learned that not only is external measure of self-worth, like if what you're trying to do is externally valued, not only is that like a very quintessential sign of a quintessential protective behavior, but simply always feeling like you have to do something is a protective self behavior. And that's what I was doing, even though I was having a baby, even though I had stuff going on like taking care of my house. But honestly, the big thing was I was having a baby, so I was pregnant, and I was also doing a lot of inner work. I shouldn't have felt like I needed to also be doing something else. I just had so many expectations on myself at any time, and that was a protective behavior. I didn't know that. So I look at this list, and there are some things that really jumped out to me that I have been doing. One is analyzing people in the self. One is revenge fantasies, or fantasies of revenge, or rejecting someone who rejected you, and fantasies of unlimited power and money, and also perfectionism. So to me, my entrepreneurship endeavor, my ambition was me fantasizing about unlimited power and money. So once I kind of recognized that that was pretty much the essence of my ambition, I realized my ambition this whole time had been basically a coping mechanism, which was kind of crazy to me, because I've made so many choices. I've done so many things. I have this whole YouTube channel about being ambitious, and only to find out it was all a coping mechanism. So that was kind of hard to deal with. I think now that so many things have not worked for me, and that I didn't really have, well, I'll just talk about the YouTube channel. I think now that I haven't had anything to talk about on my YouTube channel, because my pursuit of entrepreneurship was about attaining this idea of myself, not actually anything tangible. So if that's the case, it's really hard to structure your efforts around something to produce results. So I wasn't necessarily trying to build something. I was trying to achieve a status that really doesn't exist, because it's only external. I can't control how people respond to me. I can't, like when you don't actually heal, you can't actually, like, you're not actually having the self-worth you need to create money. So I was sort of in this loop that just would never resolve. Like I would just keep wanting the status, but because of my goal being the status, keep failing to figure out a path to get there. So in terms of my YouTube channel, I always felt like I didn't quite know what I was meant to be talking about, because I honestly didn't quite know what I was after, because it was kind of nebulous. It was just an idea, and I think that the idea of that status is what the protective self keeps you from feeling feelings and dealing with things, because you're just focused and busy reaching for something that you can't attain. Part 2, the results. After I learned this, I stopped doing these behaviors, and a big one at that time was the fantasy of revenge, because I kind of fell out with a friend, and I just would like think about her feeling stupid, and so I just stopped doing that. I stopped fantasizing about having money whenever we had a money issue, or it wasn't even a money issue. When we had an expense that seemed unfair, I stopped fantasizing about the future when I would have so much money that this little thing wouldn't matter. And to be honest, nothing happened. I didn't struggle because I stopped fantasizing about that, about revenge and stuff. I just, you know, it just lessened. That preoccupation with someone suffering because of how they made me suffer just went away, and I just kind of, those feelings just dissipated. And then also when I stopped focusing on like fantasizing about having so much money in the future, I was able to think really practically about the money I need right now. So that was interesting to me. Again, I felt ashamed because of the amount of time and money I've wasted being ambitious. So there's that. And then I also went through this period of wondering, and still am going through this period of wondering, am I just going to be mediocre then? Because I had this idea of myself that was just like a person of impact, a person of accomplishment and achievement, and like without the impetus of mattering, is that still for me? Or am I just going to be a domestic person? Like that's what I went through. Now, I guess I'll talk about this a little bit more later, but I also think that because domestic work or being a homemaker is limited to your home, I think I undervalue that because of my obsession with external validation. And then I experienced depression, and I think that I felt depressed. I said there was no effect of not fantasizing and stuff, but I honestly, like in the moment there was no effect, but I think that once I like stopped all of this extra stuff, the fantasizing, the chasing things that don't really honor me, I felt depressed. And I think that's for two reasons. One being, I think those were the emotions that was the emotion or the state that I was trying to avoid in the first place. And I have this vivid recollection of being 14 and the girls in my junior high, I was so excluded and isolated. And I remember being like, okay, if I make prom queen, then that will make all of this worth it. And of course I wasn't prom queen. I wasn't on prom court. And so that dream just kind of turned into something else. I think then it was like, okay, well, I'm going to go to the Olympic trials as a track athlete. And then that didn't happen. And then so it's turned into, well, I'm going to be whatever it is I'm trying to be. And so I've never quite just grieved how sad I felt as a 14-year-old. And I think some of that was happening, or how much it hurts for a friend to leave me when I just want to be their friend, or to lose an opportunity. Like I think I was feeling those feelings that my protective self, my busyness had been avoiding. And then also I recognized that because I spent so much energy feeding the protective self and doing these things to keep me busy and to keep me like not present, I didn't know what I even liked or what I needed to do to take care of myself. And that's something I'm still trying to figure out. Mother's Day, I don't know what to tell people I want as gifts, because so many of my gifts in the past were related to my projects, my entrepreneurship, or would be related to home improvement. I don't know what I actually like, and I think that's not being able to pour into myself is contributed to the feelings of depression. Also could have just been prenatal depression. The perfectionism is also something that I have attacked, and I can see it in so many areas of my life. First of all, you know, I thought perfectionism was like cute at first. I was told I was a perfectionist like in my 20s, and I thought it was just a thing. But then I think it was maybe January 2019, a Manifestation Babe, she had this person on, and she explained that perfectionism is the shame of being imperfect, and it's a wound. And so I started to understand that, and then this is helping me to understand that perfectionism is also what's causing me to suffer and to constantly put energy into stuff that cannot fulfill me, because it's not reflective of my actual needs or desires in the moment. So perfectionism in my baking, that was the reason, honestly, I stopped baking as much, because the anxiety was too much. Perfectionism in my home, perfectionism in my appearance, perfectionism in my childcare. So I had this idea that I needed to be this certain type of parent, and even though that wasn't inherent to me, I still put a lot of pressure on myself to achieve that. And addressing the perfectionism helped me to be like, this isn't you, this isn't for you, and it's okay. I had this moment. This is also kind of a product of doing all the healing work I did over the summer, but I cut my hair so I could get locks, but it wasn't locked. It was just cut, and it was kind of rough looking. We were going out of town. I really didn't have time to style my hair, and I didn't. And we went to this birthday party with Spencer's family, my husband's family, and I noticed that I didn't feel ashamed of myself. And it was a cool moment to see that I don't have to be perfect to like myself. I don't have to keep striving for perfection. Like, I am the same if my hair is done or if it's not done. Like, those things that matter, those signs don't determine my value. And the place I've been dealing with it most is my diet and my body image, as I'm coming back into a postpartum body, or like non-partum, I don't know what the word is, but like coming back into a regular body. I am trying to make sure I don't try to pursue an idea of myself that doesn't honor where I'm at now. I have 2 kids, I have a whole house to take care of, and I have other things I'm interested in. So focusing or making a priority my body to be a specific way is not healthy for me. And I'm really trying to keep that at the forefront of my mind. The other way I've noticed perfectionism having negatively affected me was my relationship with God. I consider myself deconverted Christian, and as I still look back and think about like what happened, I think my perfectionism caused me to feel like I couldn't get close to God, because I had this expectation that I had to be perfect, or I had to do these certain things to have a good relationship with God. And since I couldn't achieve those things, I always just felt like I couldn't achieve oneness with God, and that's not true. And so, you know, we blame so many things for a loss of faith, but I'm going to take that one like that's me. And I don't really know exactly what that means in terms of my whole story, but that's me. Part 3, moving forward. So I have experienced relief in many ways. Some of the main ones, like the most acute feelings of relief, are when I see somebody talking about making money on social media or YouTube. And I used to feel pressured by those claims, but now I just feel like, that doesn't have to apply to me. Just because this is an opportunity doesn't mean that it has to be me. It doesn't mean that I have to achieve that if it doesn't have any, if it's not for me. So I feel relief in those ways, as well as like this idea that I have to achieve something by this age, or have this sign of success, or warrant this sort of respect. Like, letting that go feels like a relief. Like, oh, I can just live my life and I don't have to be so worried about amounting to something, so that my in-laws and my brother and other people around me can feel like I'm a person of value. I inherently have value. What the money I make is not necessarily part of that. I've also had this thought a lot, like, am I even meant to work? Because when I looked back, I started to think about, what can I do practically to meet the need that I have now? And the need I have now is money. Sure, status is great, but I just want some money. I really want a sectional right now. So my thoughts have been like, what can I do for work that will help me to achieve these immediate goals? But I look back and I'm like, I really haven't been happy in any job that I've had at all. I think, yeah, no, I've never really liked any of my jobs. And so I'm like, maybe I just don't like working. And then I think about the fact that there is really not any other woman in my maternal family who has the privilege of not working. And maybe my ancestors don't want me to work. I've been contemplating that. Like, maybe my ancestors just want me to rest on their behalf because none of them could do it. My mom has like at least 10 sisters, half-sisters, and I'm pretty sure all of them work or like aren't able-bodied. So I'm in a place of privilege, and maybe that's where my ancestors want me to be. I also think that I've undervalued homemaking. So when I do think about when I was happy in the past, I felt like that's what I was meant to do. I felt like I was made to be a wife. So this is the job that I have, yet this is the job that I keep saying is not enough or I'm not meant to do. I've said many times I didn't think I was meant to be a stay-at-home mom. What do you think? I said I didn't think I was meant to be a stay-at-home mom because I didn't value this work. I value things that would get me attention and money and power. So I really leaned into the idea that this is what I'm meant to do and began focusing on taking care of my home and my family as my job instead of as just like my default occupation while I'm waiting for my real job. And honestly, I felt a lot of pride in my work as I strive to learn to manage my home. Part 4. My current focus is rest. First and foremost, I am really focused on learning to rest and just be still. I try to stop doing chores at 9 o'clock and make sure I take time out of my day to rest, because I am a projector, if you're familiar with human design, and projectors need a lot of rest. So I just need to learn to rest. I don't have to be busy all the time. I'm also wondering if it's okay to dream. I sort of feel like this is a process, and I don't know that now, like what's this, 9-10 months later, I don't really know that I'm not meant to achieve anything big. But I don't really know how to navigate that life without it being something unhealthy for me. Or I don't really know what I'm dreaming about. Like, what should I be dreaming about? I did spend some time looking into doctoral programs, and of course I think I'd have to get a master's for what I want to do, which is psychology. And then I think, like, is that about status, or is it about actually needing to have a doctorate? Because being a doctor is something that's one of my dreams, but is that a dream motivated by the protective self and wanting to matter? Or can I just become like a licensed practicing professional counselor? So I'm thinking about that, like, what are the boundaries to dreaming? I'm working on homemaking, like I said, and I'm also working on developing those other things that are unique to me, my skills. I really want to get into woodworking. That might seem random, but that's something that I've like kind of fantasized about, or just has always been very appealing to me over the years. And so I want to develop my skills for that. And then I also want to do more writing. Some of you may know that I am a talented writer. I think I need to improve my skills and get better at it. That's something I've been feeling lately. But it's crazy. I have asked so many times, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be doing? And the thing that is actually a gift, something that whenever I write something, it's pretty impactful. Even like a Christmas newsletter, people always give me feedback about how good it was or whatever. Yet I've asked, what do I need to be doing? And I clearly have the skill that I've been neglecting. So I want to grow that. And I've also been doing a lot of studying about religion, but I feel like I need to not make that a priority, because I have decades, you know, it took decades to get here. It can take decades to get somewhere else. So, and it's like already consumed enough of my life that it doesn't need to continue to do that. But that's something that I've been spending time on as of late. And I do think about YouTube, like, will I get back to recording? Will I find something of value to say? I think my message today was of value, and I hope. But I think the test is also creating content that isn't contingent upon the reaction of the audience. I spend a lot of time trying to censor myself and make my videos shorter, and then people still don't watch them. So I hope to get to a place where I just make what I want to make, and maybe that's where the magic is. But I also have to try not to think about that. Like, try not to think about what could happen and just focus on what's happening now. So my final comment to anyone who watched this video wondering if it applies to them, I as I was kind of coming into the season of unfolding, I thought a lot about how so much of our culture talks about like do it for the haters, or the best revenge is a life well lived, or hustle culture and stuff like that. And to me, a lot of that is protective self. Like if you are trying to be successful just so you can make other people feel stupid for how they felt about you, or so that you can get revenge or whatever it is, that's not a legitimate reason. You should be doing it because this is what is actually right for you. And I also wonder if that's why so many people are successful and unhappy, because they didn't do what their true self wanted. They did what their protective self wanted. What they had come to learn was valuable and important, instead of what their specific spirit actually needed. So I think people should think about that. Like, why am I doing this? Is it for me or is it for others? And I would have said it was for me. Like, oh, I want to achieve this in life, and I could have $1 million. I would still have to do this. That's true, but that's probably because it also is about something other than, I think that it was still wrapped into that, like it was for me, but it was still for me to be seen, essentially. I also want to say the other reason I feel like I may not be meant to work is because our financial needs keep being met. Like I just wonder if we have the things that we have, or we have the resources we have to support me not working. Not to support us while not working, but to support me not working. Thank you, ancestors, I guess. But anyway, I hope that provides a new thought on this culture, this entrepreneurial hustle ambition culture that we're in right now, because it's not all bad, but I think a lot of us have the wrong intentions that won't actually meet the need that needs to be met. And I hope that we can spend some time thinking a little bit more about where it's all coming from and what we're actually trying to achieve, and if it's for us or if it's for others. Hopefully I'll be back with some additional content. It's taken me months to even make this, so I don't know. But I appreciate you sticking around to hear my video, my thoughts, and this is my baby, Royce. He's probably gonna be in a lot of videos because he doesn't take long naps. So at any rate, thanks for stopping by, and hopefully I'll talk to you soon.